I don't like this engine. This engine is being mean. Yeah. Welcome back to the shop. This is Meredith with Madam Diesel, and we are working on the M25 XP. We're going to try swapping out the injection pump. I've got an old injection pump off my training engine. It was rebuilt, but it sat for a number of years, so we'll see if it works out today and we can get this thing started. Now, the reason for trying the old injection pump versus just sending this one out to be rebuilt is I'm trying not to put too much money into this engine because we still don't know its overall condition, and I don't want to spend thousands of dollars to find out that this engine has something else major that's going on. I would like to get it started before I start billing the customer to send all these parts out. The first thing we got to do is get these hard supply lines off that go to each of the injectors. I'm just loosening up the clips here that hold all three together. I don't necessarily have to remove them, but by loosening them, I'm able to swing each hard line away. This injection pump hasn't been touched in many years, and the delivery valves are kind of stuck to the compression fitting nut, and so I'm having to remove each of the delivery valves to get the wrench in on the next nut. And so it's just being real feisty. And by getting those hard lines out of the way, it allows me to get one off at a time so I can get this whole assembly apart. Now it's time to get this throttle bracket off. This holds the throttle cable to the lever up above, and we just need to flop it out of our way. These are just a couple of 12mm bolts. We need to get underneath it to the stop cover where that stop lever is, and that's the next thing we're going to remove because I need access to the rack of the injection pump in order to pull this injection pump out. With our access cover out of the way, now we have a view of the control arm that controls the fuel rack on our injection pump. Kind of hard to see up there, but this guy is what controls fuel input. Now it's time to clear up the rest of the stuff around this injection pump. We've got to get that intake manifold taken off, and even one of the glow plugs, I believe, because it's in the way. That injection pump's going to lift straight out of its hole. So we'll fast forward through all this and you can watch and enjoy. Now, the reason we need to have the access cover taken off is I've got to maneuver that arm that controls the rack. and line it up with a slot in the block. That way the pump can slide straight out. Here's kind of a better view of what that control arm looks like. And you can see the slot in the control arm. That engages with the fuel rack on the pump. And when you rev the engine up, this arm moves back and forth, which moves the rack in the pump. I'll show you the rack here. See that little nub sticking out? That rack slides back and forth and controls how much fuel comes out of the pump. If we look at the engine again, the thing that controls the pump is this fuel camshaft. And it's a mini camshaft that drives those roller bearings on the pump. Let's clean up all the dirt around here, and then we'll be ready to install our new pump. Don't forget to grab the shims off the old pump if they're stuck to it. Make sure those are the same height that they were before. And we're going to stick this new pump in, and I'm going to make sure that fuel rack is lined up with my lever. That lever needs to engage with the fuel rack in order to work properly. If you take a close look up here, you'll see how that little metal rod is engaging with my lever. Once the bolts are in and she's snugged up, we can start putting everything back together the way we took it apart. Well, she's put back together. Let's get a battery hooked up and see what happens. Got fuel at all of our injectors, finally. That's good. This injection pump hasn't been running a couple years, so Wasn't sure if it would perform after it's been messed with by hundreds of students, so this will be the moment of truth. I'll get my injectors tightened here, and we'll get some fire to warm this thing up because it won't want to run when it's cold like that. So I've just got the torch in the intake, and one thing to keep in mind is if the torch is all the way in the intake like the way I have it, it won't want to start because the flame in there is consuming all the oxygen. So if you're getting the engine to crank, don't forget to pull the torch out. Right now I'm just trying to heat up the intake, get everything nice and warm so this engine actually wants to start. The glow plugs are not wired. To go. See all that smoke? As I continue to attempt to crank this thing, I'm starting to see less and less fuel, but at the same time, the starter is actually beginning to fail, like, badly. So, looks like the starter's finally kaput, and we'll have to change it here soon. As I'm cranking this thing, listen to the engine. It seems rather smooth. It doesn't have its typical gallop. It's almost like valves aren't timed correctly or something. That is an issue I'll deal with later. Well, the time has come. Our starter, it's still cranking, but it's actually starting to crank backwards. So it's time to swap this thing out. I have another starter laying around the shop. We'll get this swapped out real quick so we can keep working on this engine. I'm not seeing a whole ton of progress just yet. The engine's not kicking, and I'm starting to wonder if my old injection pump maybe isn't performing the way I had hoped. As I keep working on this, I'm noticing less and less fuel. I haven't quite doubted the injection pump yet, but I'm getting there. I'm noticing less smoke come out of the exhaust, and I'm starting to lean towards wanting to see what compression looks like on this thing, because it should be taking off, especially if I have fuel at all 3 injectors, or at least I did. Now that I'm cranking it again, look at the smoke. There's hardly anything. The engine's not even trying anymore. And I'm starting to doubt whether cylinders have fuel, but also whether cylinders have compression. So diesel needs 3 things to start and run: fresh air, fresh fuel, and good compression. I thought I had fuel at this point in time. I still hadn't checked compression, so I wanted to see what compression was. If this engine had real low compression, it wasn't worth continuing, so I figured now was the time to check. And of course, that means I get to take everything apart again. Yay! I'll spare you the process of ripping it all apart. I've got glow plugs out, my gauge is hooked in, and we're going to test all 3 cylinders. The first test that you're watching right now is just overall compression. Looks like I've got about 425 on cylinder 1. Then after this, I'll do a quick test to see how quickly the cylinder builds compression. I'll do that on all 3 cylinders, so that way I can see whether they're consistent or not. Luckily, all cylinders seem pretty consistent and hit a max of around 425, 430, so I'm satisfied with that. The next thing I'm going to do, because I'm still suspecting fuel and the injection pump, I'm going to pull the injectors here and take a look at them and see what they look like. They have signs of moisture. Now, granted, the boat was sitting in a junkyard, so who knows what kind of water got in there. I just want to see what they look like, see if they're clogged up, maybe they're the problem, and then we'll go from there. All 3 of them are pretty cruddy looking, so did my best to clean them up with some brake clean and air. Also cleaned out the holes. The holes were just full of absolute carbon and shit. This poor engine is so carboned up. And so hopefully that helps out. Now the holes are looking a lot better, and we'll get everything reassembled. Oh, hello. Hi, baby. Hi. Hi. The final thing I wanted to do that didn't require spending any money is adjust the valves. Now, while cranking this engine, there were several times where I noticed a little bit of smoke coming out of the intake, which tells me a valve might be staying open longer than it should have been. And the engine also didn't have its normal gallop, like it was losing some of its compression. And so I figured adjusting valves is a pretty easy thing to do, and I might as well do that as kind of a final attempt at getting this thing started. Now, while compression wasn't low, I have actually seen engines not start as a result of valves being adjusted improperly or not adjusted when they should have been. And so I figured this would be an easy check to do because I have the tools for it, and why not eliminate that as well. I'm still suspecting fuel, but I figured I'd get this taken care of before I forgot about it. While doing this, some of the valves were actually out of adjustment, so I'm glad I checked. Well, after multiple attempts, it looks like the injection pump has given up the ghost. I cranked it for a while, tried to get the injectors bled. There's absolutely nothing at the injectors. The pump started out strong and then failed. And so it's time to start sending stuff out if we want to get this engine started. It's time to spend some money. So this engine defeat us? Well, today it did. I wanted to show you guys the legit, life inside the shop. It doesn't always go as planned. Not everything's perfect. I did all the tricks I could think of, short of spending money on this thing. And it just won't start without a rebuild or a new injection pump. We got no fuel to the injectors. The injection pump I had, while it is rebuilt, it sat for far too long. It was on one of my training engines, and looks like it also needs to be rebuilt. So it was a good attempt. This engine, I've at least heard some life. Now that we've adjusted valves, it's starting to crank like a normal engine. However, it's just not getting fuel. An engine doesn't take much to get started. Fuel, air, compression, right? And I've got compression, I've got air, but I don't have fuel. And what do you know? That missing piece of the triangle equals engine no start. So anyways, once we get some stuff done on this, I will follow up with another video. I'm sorry that it wasn't more exciting, but this is the reality of being a diesel mechanic in a diesel shop. Not everything works perfectly. And I wanted to show you, a real engine that didn't start. It doesn't always go as planned. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.